Hello, everyone. Welcome to another amazing episode of Inspired Action, where we dive into the most pressing leadership challenges and hope to inspire you to take a more coach-centered and people-focused approach to leadership. I'm your host, Kyle Pertuis, and it's time to get started with our three amazing guests for today. Hey, welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the newest episode of Inspired Action. I'm your host, Kyle Pertuis, and I'm here with three incredible guests today to answer this question. What does it mean to lead with a growth mindset? And let me tell you, we've got three incredible guests to answer this question. So a quick intro. Let me first start with Easton. You're going to have to say your name for me, Easton. The last name, it trips me up every time. Say it for
Yeah,
me.
it's Dukevich.
Dukevich, of course, just like it's spelled. So this guy, one of his many roles currently is project engineer with Rockford Construction up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, an Army infantry veteran, self-proclaimed Kaizen warrior determined to be 1% better every single day and maintain a relentless growth mindset and continuous improvement in both his work and home life. Be sure to check this guy out. Easton, welcome to the show. Next, we have David Donnerstadt, who is the CEO of LeanSet Leadership and Business Consulting, helping organizations achieve operational and enterprise excellence. David was a senior leader in the Air Force for more than 2 decades. This guy has an MBA, a bachelor's in industrial engineering, and an associate's in human resource and, believe it or not, aviation technology. So he is a people-focused leader that believes in involved learning is vital to optimizing. David, welcome as well. Last but not least, Nancy Evans Aaron. I just said all of them. I just said all the names. So, with over a decade's experience serving two phenomenal Fortune 500 companies, she fully embraces the power of fostering a vibrant culture and the thrill of seeking, finding, and creating new opportunities. These insights have paved the way for her entrepreneurial journey, inspiring her to start her own business. And that she had. She is the founder of BYOB, a personal branding and content strategist, co-founder of multiple other businesses, and an overall serial entrepreneur, marketing, and LinkedIn expert. Nancy, welcome. I cannot wait to hear from each of you. So let's jump right in. Easton, I'm going to start with you. What does it mean to lead with a growth mindset? Take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle, and thanks for the introduction. Um, so I truly believe that the only way that you can lead a team to success is by learning these people, understanding their mindset and how what good things do they have to offer. And I read the book Trust and Inspire, and this book is just excellent as far as trying to get this greatness out of people. And the best way to do that is just take a little bit more time, learn who they are, and uh, you're going to learn what their strengths are. And when you learn what their strengths are, you kind of just have to pull that out of them. And I think as far as in my life, like you said, I lead with a 1% better every day. And best thing you can do is lead by example. So if you're leading by example, you're doing the right thing, you're calling people out, you're holding them accountable. You might not even have to, have multiple conversations with that person because someone might uh, hear you, but it goes in one ear and out the other. Reality is they're going to see your actions and see that you're spending time with those people that are at, maybe a 90-degree temperature. And there's some people over here at a 50-degree temperature. And reality is if they see that, they're going to gravitate towards, well, why is he giving this guy more attention? And maybe I should be more like this guy. And that's going to relay a growth mindset to the team overall. And that's what I've been doing in construction and trying to build up all these young trade contractors and foremen. And that's kind of what I got, Kyle. So
I love it, man. I mean, you know what? Just listening to you talk, I think you kind of summarized it with the 1% better, right? It's that growth mindset is constantly looking to improve and not necessarily being stuck in what's going to happen. How can I seek it out? How can I find it? And you also referenced that book, that those two words, trust and inspire, are a huge piece of it, right? And so, what are we doing to constantly lean into that? Easton, I love it. Let's jump over to David. what would you add to piggyback on Easton's response as it relates to what does it mean to lead with a growth mindset?
Yeah, well, first I got to be honest. I thought today we were talking about cryptocurrency. So,
That's the other call.
yeah, I'm only joking. But first, thank you, Kyle, for the opportunity, and it was really an honor to be in same presence with you, great folks. So I appreciate the opportunity. One of the things, if I was to piggyback off Easton, was lead by example. We were both in the military, and that is ingrained in you pretty much from day one. And it's not so much something that I always felt like was just a kind of a flavor of the month. It really is, the epitome of leadership in the military and outside. But for me, when I think about growth mindset, I think about really the nurturing potential that folks have, as a leader, but also not just nurturing, myself, but also others on my team. My initial leadership training and experience that started in the military. And, looking back, maybe that wasn't the best leadership training because if I think back, we were taught this command and control style, which, it applies in that situation very well, in the military. But when you come into the commercial world, it's a whole different ballgame. So, when we were focused on strict compliance and just efficiency, not having much room for growth and innovation, you have no choice but to shift your style of leadership. So, really everything changed for me. Kyle, I'll give you kudos. Going through the leadership and coach training, that was really the turning point for me. Was when I was able to develop my own skills as a leader through hard work and dedication, and that mindset that I have is growing not only myself but my team as well. That was really the big turning point for me. I love what Ethan said about 1% better every day. I've never coined that term. I'm going to steal it from you. Thank you very much. But I really do believe in that. If we can just get a little bit better every day, I believe it's monumental. But throughout my journey, really, I learned that leading with that growth mindset, it means to continually seek those opportunities, not only to develop myself, my own capabilities, but others. I found that as this became part of me, it was a habit. It's who I am. It started to translate over to how I coached my son, or helped him grow. And it strengthened our relationship because rather than that command control style of parenthood, or as I was in the military, is more of a coaching perspective and looking for opportunities to help others grow. So for me, if I was to wrap it up, leading with the growth mindset, it's really about nurturing the potential within ourselves and others.
I love that. I also love the fact that you brought up how it impacted the relationship with your son, because I think a lot of times in this kind of forum, we're talking about it with other like-minded business people, and other people in business are watching it. But we've got to remember some of these things that we're talking about absolutely apply in every other aspect of our life, right? And so I think that's such an important thing to bring in the mix in any of these conversations. You can't have a growth mindset at work and a fixed mindset at home. It doesn't work like that. You'll constantly be in friction with yourself, right? So I appreciate that piece of it. All right, Nancy, let's jump over to you and bring us home here. What does it mean to lead with a growth mindset?
Yeah. I mean, this is a great topic. I think growth mindset for us, in fact, just hearing you guys talk, like it kind of reminded me of a couple like pivotal, moments in my own leadership experience. Out of college, I was kind of young and thrown into managing executives. And I always felt like I had to be perfect and everything had to be, just right. And I had to be that leader that just knew all the things. And it literally was like a little, kitchen timer went off as I progressed into my leadership and I became a better leader. When I realized, right, part of being a leader is having that growth mindset and checking your ego at the door, right? Knowing that we don't have to be perfect. We're not going to be perfect. And in fact, the best leaders really take off that cap of, I have to know it all and I have to be perfect. And they put on the cap of, I'm a lifelong learner. And that carries over, right? Like we're talking about into your personal life as well, where it's almost like you need to adopt this core value, right, of being a lifelong learner. And just knowing that not only to stay up to date, but also to be humble and to listen and accept feedback, right? To be able to work with the team and foster a community of development and growth and all of those things, right? You've got to model that each and every day. And for me, that was early on in my career. I kind of learned that, thank goodness. And then when I started my entrepreneurship journey, I remember my first mentor who was an angel investor. He, helped, build multi-million dollar businesses. And my first business was a locally run like house cleaning business. And I remember I had this, business plan, everything. And he goes, Nancy, you're going to have to get your hands dirty and you're going to have to go do this work because you need to know all things in the business. And I was like, oh. So he said, you got to know it. You're going to learn it, but you're going to be a much better business owner. And I took off my hat of, okay, I'm not going to touch this or do that. And I put on the, you know what, I'm going to learn because I want to know my business and I want to be able to support my team the best that I can. And so I just think it's so incredibly important to be real, to learn, to take that ego, set it aside and be open to hearing different perspectives. And, I think we all can agree, right? Part of leadership is turning that spotlight from ourselves onto our team and letting them have wins and letting them feel buy-in, right? And answering problems in ways that maybe you would have never thought of. It might not be perfect or the way that you would approach things, but how much more ownership are they going to have when they're actually able to work through things themselves? And guess what? That usually builds over time, and then you develop even better leaders, who are more confident. So again, I think the best leaders, right, are those that have the growth mindset. And I think in every situation, good, bad, otherwise, right? There's always something to take away. There's always something to learn. In fact, and I know I'm kind of going on, but like, every single week, I actually do what we call the traffic light meeting with my team. And this is a way that you can implement this, right? Which is what's going well, what needs work, and what do we need to stop doing, right? Red, yellow, green. And that's something we do every single week because the team is able to share like, oh, this is going really well. But then it also opens the door for feedback, right? It opens that door for learnings. It opens the door for, we need to stop doing this because it's not making any sense, right? So creating that culture, fostering that is just so impactful. And really, I think it's a core value that all leaders, right, and people in general should really have.
I love it. And I think what I kept hearing over and over is how important humility is in the the growth mindset. I just, it's such an important element. And you think if it becomes more natural to you to learn and fail and grow and seek opportunity and develop people, that humility, I think, just kind of starts to come along with it. So fantastic, you guys. Thank y'all so much for being here. That's all the time we have for today. Stick around. We'll jam a little bit more to post on YouTube. I really appreciate you guys being here. We'll see you next time on Inspired Action. All right. So I had a couple of thoughts as I was listening to you guys talk. So let me throw this one into the mix. If I were to say curiosity over comfort, how would that apply to a fixed mindset in your opinion? Curiosity over comfort. What are your thoughts? Anybody can go.
Is like, how would you apply? Like, I mean, can you give a little bit of?
Yeah, so think about it from the perspective maybe of what's like yourself, relentlessly chasing new ideas, being more curious as opposed to staying kind of safe. I mean, I think some people feel like operating within that comfort zone is a growth mindset because we're not breaking anything, we're not risking anything, and we keep moving things forward, right? I mean, we could even take the Easton's 1% improvement a day as, well, it's just a little bit, and I'm safe. I'm not going to go too far out of the limb. But if you look at the theory behind that, that's 365% improvement in the course of a year. That's significant. So we can go into the conversation around consistency and repetition and all those other kind of things. So that's kind of when you think about curiosity as opposed to comfort, what might that do for somebody who wants to have more of a growth mindset. That's probably a better way to phrase that.
Yeah, I would say as long as you have some structure, like, I mean, again, I always love, I know people hate like meetings and things like that, but as long as you have like a space for it and we're not going wild and crazy, right? Changing things up every week. I think as long as there's a process or a routine around it, I mean, just using AI as an example, I just was teaching a whole class on how we can actually incorporate somewhat of an AI council into our business. So, for example, it's creating a routine where we routinely look at our business. Maybe it's a business review once a month or could be even quarterly. And it's looking where we have bottlenecks and how can we apply AI tools or streamline our processes to remove some of those reoccurring high impact things, that can really help our business run smoother. So we're creating an agenda, that includes that. And so we're having that conversation and we're, able to share and talk about it openly. But I think you got to have a little bit of structure around it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's next level, right? I forget who it was. Diary of a CEO. I think I forget his name, but anyway, he said something about if you've got 15 spare minutes and can't think of something that will advance your business, you might want to double check being an entrepreneur, right? I mean, it's something that simple. Like, oh, okay, we're doing this. How could we improve the AI? Leveraging AI, and so. Not to insinuate that a growth mindset means that you're constantly grinding and working all the time, but it's tapping into that curiosity. You're saying, I wonder what could be different, right? Whether it's now or later, we can question. Easton or David, what would you add to that?
I would say, the big part of it is you have to have your ears open. You got to be listening to your team around you. And the minute that we just get so structured and so set on like this is the way that we do it, you kind of just turn your ears off to everybody else, and they might have great ideas and thoughts that, if implemented, can save you a lot of time and ultimately time is money. So just like Nancy's saying with AI, that advancement and that level of being innovative now in this new generation is key. And anybody that is not going to be innovating is kind of going to be left in the dark, and we're going to lose out on a lot of opportunities due to that.
Love it. No question. David, what would you add?
Yeah. So, I'm a process guy. And so, of course, when Nancy mentioned process, my ears perked up. But I think if I think about comfort versus curiosity, to me, when you ask that question, I first thought comfort is staying in our comfort zone. Everything's cool. I'm not putting forth much more energy or effort. But then you get into the space where, hey, could things be better? I'm curious about that. Let me look at this process. It's not working perfectly. Instead of staying in my comfort zone, it is working. We're meeting our demand, but could we be better? And that's where I feel like, as a leader, shifting the mindset of your team to be thinking that way, outside of the box, outside of their comfort zone. I think that's one of those pivotal shifts for not only just the leader, but the team as well.
Yeah, no question. So that's all the time we have for today. And you know what they say, curiosity didn't kill the cat, it made the cat the CEO. So thanks for watching, you guys. We look forward to the next time we have an episode for Inspired Action every Thursday at noon Central. It will post on LinkedIn and then track us here on YouTube as well. Thanks again, you guys.
Well, that's a wrap for another edition of Inspired Action, the Leadership Forecast. We're so grateful for our guests today and the impact they're making with the work they do. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel to watch the longer version of this episode, and be sure to like, comment, connect with, and follow me and each of our guests. You'll find all of our links in the caption of this video. Thanks for watching, and be sure to tune in every Thursday at noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern for new episodes.